This is an excerpt from The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferris. Someone called the maitre d'. Quote, "You have comfort. You don't have luxury, and don't tell me that money plays a part. The luxury I advocate has nothing to do with money. It cannot be bought. It is the reward of those who have no fear of discomfort." Jean Cocteau, French poet, novelist, boxing manager, and filmmaker whose collaborations were the inspiration for the term surrealism. Sometimes timing is perfect. There are hundreds of cars circling a parking lot, and somebody pulls out of a spot 10 feet from the entrance just as you reach his or her bumper. Another Christmas miracle. Other times, timing could be better. The phone rings during sex and seems to ring for half an hour. The UPS guy shows up 10 minutes later. Bad timing can spoil the fun. Jean-Marc Hachey landed in West Africa as a volunteer, with high hopes of lending a helping hand. In that sense, his timing was great. He arrived in Ghana in the early 1980s, in the middle of a coup d'etat, at the peak of hyperinflation, and just in time for the worst drought in a decade. For these same reasons, some people would consider his timing quite poor from a more selfish survival standpoint. He had also missed the memo. The national menu had changed, and they were out of luxuries like bread and clean water. He would be surviving for 4 months on a slush-like concoction of cornmeal and spinach. Not what most of us would order at the movie theater. Wow, I can survive. Jean-Marc had passed the point of no return. But it didn't matter. After 2 weeks of adjusting to the breakfast, lunch, and dinner mush a la Ghana, he had no desire to escape. The most basic of foods and good friends proved to be the only real necessities, and what would seem like a disaster from the outside was the most life-affirming epiphany he had ever experienced. The worst really wasn't that bad. To enjoy life, you don't need fancy nonsense, but you do need to control your time and realize that most things just aren't as serious as you make them out to be. Now 48, Jean-Marc lives in a nice home in Ontario, but could live without it. He has cash, but could fall into poverty tomorrow and it wouldn't matter. Some of his fondest memories still include nothing but friends and gruel. He's dedicated to creating special moments for himself and his family, and is utterly unconcerned with retirement. He has already lived 20 years of partial retirement in perfect health. Don't save it all for the end. There is every reason not to.